Stark from WatcherPass.com, and today I'm here to talk to you about the new escape room movie, Escape Room Tournament of Champions, which is coming to theaters on July 16th, 2021 from Sony Pictures. It's a sequel to 2019's Escape Room, which, as you would imagine from the title, involved an escape room with deadly consequences. In that film, a group of 6 people, I think, all were thrown into this series of horrible escape room type challenges that had deadly consequences. In the end, 2 people survived, Zoey and Ben, who both returned for Escape Room 2. Now, if you haven't seen Escape Room, that's fine. I haven't seen it either, but the film actually does a pretty decent job of catching you up on it. And, it's an escape room movie, so, it involves puzzles and trying to escape from different sequences. It's kind of like Saw, except in each trap is a giant room and you have multiple people. Or it's kind of like your escape room that you go to, except if you don't find, which color insert goes into the light to open the door, you die. So it's kind of like that. But the film does a good job of catching up on the characters and catching up on what happened and kind of interspersing little snippets here and there. It gives you a kind of a nice overview at the start, and then interviews little snippets in the film to kind of fill in some of the backstory. So, it probably would be good to see the first movie before, because this is a direct sequel to Escape Room. Escape Room Tournament of Champions is a direct sequel to Escape Room. So, you'll have a better sense of what happens and kind of more association with the characters if you see the first movie. But I hadn't seen it before watching this film, and I felt fine following along. I had enough of the story, and the sequel gives enough hints in the film to kind of keep you going. But in Escape Room Tournament of Champions, or I'll probably just call it Escape Room 2 during this, just for ease of reference. The returning characters, Ben and Zoey. Zoey is played by Taylor Russell and Ben is played by Logan Miller. They are dealing with the consequences of surviving a killer escape room, dealing with the mental and social consequences that happen. And Zoey just can't seem to let it go. She wants to make the people who organize the escape room pay. So she convinces Ben to go back to New York because there were some coordinates that were in the logo of the company. I'm guessing maybe that was the stinger or the ending of the first movie. But there are some coordinates in that logo that take you to New York. So Zoey convinces Ben to drive to New York because she's afraid to fly. I believe her background, her mom died in a flight, and so it's traumatized her. I think they said that in the film. So they drive to New York, hunt down this place, and eventually find themselves in a subway car with 4 other random people that then veers off the tracks, goes into the secluded part of the subway, and boom, you have a new puzzle with Zoey, Ben, and 4 other people, who are Nathan, who's played by Thomas Cocquerel, Rachel, who's played by Holland Roden, Brianna, who's played by Indya Moore, and one other person who's played by Carlito Olivero. I didn't remember his name, but so there's 6 people in there. And what you find out early on is that each of them was a winner of their own escape room challenge. So it's kind of like, in Hunger Games, Katniss won the game, or Katniss and Peeta. Actually, it's very similar to Hunger Games. This is very, very similar. Katniss and Peeta won Hunger Games, and then in Hunger Games 2, they brought back previous champions to redo the games. Well, in this case, they brought back previous winners of the escape room into a new escape room. It's called the Tournament of Champions because everyone there has been a previous escape room champion. So, in that respect, it actually makes it, it kind of sucks that they're all back in there because they all had pretty terrible experiences, it seems like. But it does make it very easy for the film to get going because everyone knows what they have to do. There's no explanation. There's no, disbelief. Everyone knows that they have to start solving these puzzles, and they start moving pretty well like clockwork. It was actually kind of nice to just have everyone jump in and kind of have a familiarity with the terrible situation and just start trying to work towards it. So then they work through these puzzles and, stuff happens. I'm not going to spoil everything, but I will say that there will be some spoilers in this review. And so, if I haven't already spoiled everything for you, go ahead and watch the film and then come back. I'll be discussing 3 things I liked, 3 things I didn't like, and then kind of have a go at creating an alternate ending to the film. So there will be spoilers, massive spoilers in this. So if you haven't watched the film, go watch it and then come back to this review. Or if you don't care about spoilers, just want to find out what happens, keep watching. So 3 things I liked about this movie. The first is the cast. The cast was really, really well done. The previous winners were nice additions. They each had their own quirks from the tournament that they were in. Taylor Russell and Logan Miller are returning from Escape Room. They had a fun camaraderie. Taylor Russell, or Zoey, is kind of the genius solver. She always kind of has a better sense of what's going on than everyone else. Nathan was a priest, and he was in a game where I guess they had all priests to see if maybe they would survive better because of their faith. Spoiler, they didn't, but he had an interesting backstory. I kind of liked his balancing of faith versus his regret at what happened. Holland Roden as Rachel. She was fantastic. She was just a lot of fun to watch, and her character couldn't feel pain, and so their game was everyone in their game couldn't feel pain, so they had some really terrible puzzles apparently. And she also had some gray streaks in her hair. I kind of wish I had heard more about what happened there. It gave her kind of a rogue look, and everyone in this scenario had some sort of scars from their previous game and experiences from their previous game that they brought to this, and so it made the group a very interesting, varied group with different experiences and different things that they brought to the table. So it was a nice mix of characters that each had some very specific quirks from their past experiences in the escape room, and it made for just some interesting interactions and conflicts. I really liked the priest character, Nathan, because he had kind of a different perspective on a lot of the things, and he was kind of always going between faith and then just kind of despair. So it was fun to see. But everyone brought something different, and everyone kind of worked together in a very cohesive way. So it was a very fun cast to watch. The second thing I loved is the variety of puzzles. I mean, this is not just kind of your typical, I guess, Saw-like, where everything is kind of grungy and grimy, and the puzzles are imaginative, but they all kind of take place in a dark sewer essentially. In this film, the escape rooms were all very, very different. They were all very interesting. They had, some had bright themes, some had, there was one set in like a beach. There was one, set in a bank. There was one in like a New York street. They all were very, very different, and they had a lot of very nice, details to them that were part of the solving the puzzle. But they also gave each of the rooms kind of a different life and a real sense that this is an elaborate puzzle. And so, no 2 puzzles were the same. You didn't really feel bored like you were seeing the same thing, because each one was very, very different, and it kind of helped move the film along by having each new scenario be like a brand new whole set. And kind of to go along with that, the third thing I liked is the effects, because you have these elaborate sets, and then as the countdown happens, more terrible things occur, and it causes these very elaborate sets to become death traps, and each death trap was very different, and they had really spectacular CG effects to go along with it. I'm pretty sure it was all CG. I mean, there was probably a mix of CG and practical effects, but there was a lot of CG, but it was very well done. It wasn't distracting like it could be. It wasn't obviously CG. Like, the whole film had a very, very nice production, had a very, very high production value for what you were getting. And so it made, my biggest pet peeve is probably if CG is there and it makes it kind of break your suspension of disbelief. And in this film, I didn't ever have that. You could tell it's some CG, but it was all kind of part of the movie, and it didn't look out of place. It didn't look like it was, lower quality than anything else in the film. So it made everything very exciting and very fun and very tense. I mean, as the countdown happens, and each room seems to always be solved at the very last minute, you have this sense of tension as you're wondering who's going to survive, how are they going to finally finish it, and who's not going to survive, because spoiler, some of them people don't survive. So all those are really good, and it makes this a really fun kind of summer horror movie. It's exciting. It's got really kind of over the top effects and over the top rooms, and it's something that you'll enjoy if you go to. If you're a fan of escape rooms, if you're a fan of like Saw like movies, except maybe without the pure evil that is Saw. This is a fun movie to go to. Now, three things I didn't love about this movie. The first is the very specific solutions. I mean, if you've been to an escape room, you know that there is a very specific way to solve it. You have to go through these steps and kind of find the clues, and that clue leads to another clue. And if you don't go in this exact order, then you're probably not going to escape it. And maybe this is just my own, dislike of escape rooms because I can never solve them in time. But it felt like each room had a very specific sequence that was very conveniently arrived at. And I know that there were time pressures, so they couldn't have people, going around for too long, but it was very much like, oh, there's this says sea to live, and oh, here's a picture of a sea, and oh, let me open it, oh, there's a shell, does anyone see a shell? And it just felt very kind of formulaic and very convenient, because someone would always see something in the end. And that's not to say that there wasn't any tension. Like, there was a lot of tension as they were trying to solve it, but it was a very, very specific sequence to solve each room, which can feel a little bit, it feels a little unfulfilling. Not to say that it wasn't exciting, it wasn't enjoyable, but it just felt a little, I should say unrealistic, but this movie's unrealistic. It felt a little bit too convenient when they would solve it. So the second thing I didn't love is they say the name of the movie in the movie, and it shouldn't bother me, but it's just not my favorite thing. Someone early on says, escape room tournament of champions, and that didn't need to be there. I feel like they could have had the evil people say it. It didn't need to be someone in one of the cast members. It's very minor. I don't love when the name of the movie is in the movie, unless it's like more subtle, and this was kind of very on the nose. But again, minor, not a big deal. The third thing I didn't love is the ending, and this is this is kind of a sore spot, because I actually really did like the film all the way through. It was enjoyable, it was exciting, it was tense. It had enough twists and turns, make you guess what was going to happen next, and make you guess how people were going to solve it. But spoilers, 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 spoilers. What I didn't love is the film seems to go for this big kind of aha moment at the end, and then leave you with a cliffhanger ending where Zoey and Ben escape from the escape room, and they find their way out. They go to the police come, and I guess they get to the escape room before Minas has a chance to clean everything up. And so they get some of the, they get records, they get some of the bodies, they start this investigation, and essentially they say it's over. And so Zoey and Ben, are relieved, and Zoey says essentially, like, let's, because she's been so afraid of flying, she's like, let's take that flight, let's take that first step. So they fly home, which is weird because they drove there, and that means Ben is just leaving his car in New York, which, I would not leave a car. I would have been like, no, you made me drive here. We're going to drive back. We can fly somewhere else after. But they fly home. They're on the plane, and Zoey can't ever turn off her escape room brain, because she thinks that they're everywhere. They kind of are. And she sees someone in the plane who reminds her of a character that we met earlier. And she goes up to the person, and then that leads to a series of clues that she remembers from that character, that triggers her thought that maybe this entire thing was organized by Minas to get her onto this plane. And then after that, it's the plane, the cabin loses pressure, all the oxygen mask drop from the ceiling, and it ends with some voiceover saying like, "Welcome to Minas Air" or something like that. This felt a little bit too elaborate, a little bit too kind of, going for that big like super reveal at the end. And I thought that they could have done it a little bit more subtly. I just didn't love that it felt like they were just trying to kind of do a twist on a twist. My guess is maybe if they do make a third movie, they're going to try to use all the passengers as some sort of collateral to get Zoey to design a new escape room, because that was kind of the crux of what happened at the end of the escape room part. They were trying to get her to then design the next escape room, and she said no, and craziness happened. So that being said, I came up with my own, alternate ending, a way that I would have liked to end it. It's rough, it's late, be gentle, but here's kind of what I thought, you could have happen. So, similar ending to the first film. Zoey and Ben are on the plane after escaping the escape room. Zoey gets up, concerned about someone up ahead that looks strangely familiar. This person was her therapist at the very start of the film. And one of the things that her therapist said was, you are constantly looking for clues. You are constantly trying to find these patterns. And she holds up a pen. She said, in your mind, this is a clue. She holds up her purse. She said, this is a clue. This book is a clue. And so it was an interesting sequence, and that keyed into the main ending where Zoey goes up to this person on the plane and sees all three of those things. So, Zoey gets, in my alternate ending, Zoey sees this person and goes to approach them. As she approaches, she sees the familiar pen that the person is using. Ominous music plays as she gets closer, and when she approaches the lady, she taps her on the shoulder, only to realize that it's not that person. The voice in her head repeats what her therapist says. You make everything into a clue. Ben is behind her at this point and taps her on the shoulder and says, Zoey, it's over. Let's go home now. And Zoey agrees. They sit down, and maybe Zoey puts on headphones or something. Boom, credits music. Maybe a few scenes into the credits happen, and then now you have the real ending. Stinger. Oh, that's one thing about this movie. There's no stinger. So you don't have to stay for the credits. There's no stinger. But in my alternate ending, there is. So the plane lands, and Ben and Zoey collect their luggage. They head back to wherever it was they lived. I think they were in Chicago. As their cab pulls up, because Ben left his car in New York, which, again, not a great idea, there are police waiting for them. Ben goes up to them and says, Officer, what can we help you with? You need to come with us, a stern officer says. Ben, we just had a long flight and it's late. Can't this wait till later? The officer says, now. So Ben and Zoey get into the police car. As they head to the station, the officers begin to detail how they received a call from NYPD asking them to bring Zoey and Ben in. There's a lot more information in that room, including doctored images of Zoey planning the room and Ben and Zoey executing people. Now, in this one, it will require some tweaks to what happened in the escape room, but I think it's something that you could fairly easily do. Like, they could just have a few scenes where Zoey and Ben try to save someone, they don't, and then in the doctored images, maybe it could look like they pushed someone or they pulled a switch. Little things, but you'd have to have some sort of evidence to make them think that they're in trouble or think that there's a case against them. So the officers take Zoey and Ben into the police station. They go down a dark elevator, and Ben and Zoey say something like, where are we going? And the officer says, we had such short notice that we couldn't get a normal cell ready, so we had to find something quickly. They are taken to a dark cell deep in the police station. The officers lock them in and say, enjoy your stay. We hope it's productive. And that just then, some of those like old procedural prison lights turn on. You know what they're like. They're CFLs, and they kind of slowly turn on. And Zoey looks around. And in this cell, there's like graph paper, pencils, and some sort of document that has a title, Escape Room, Mother and Daughter. Zoey says, no, I won't do this. I won't design your game. Some voiceover from Minas comes on and says, "We tried playing nicely. Now the games are over. Work quickly or we will already have our first victim." And just then, another light turns on, and there is Amanda, who was in the first in this film. Amanda was in the first escape room film, and in this film, she comes back as the designer of this new Tournament of Champions game. And the story there was Mina's kidnapped her daughter and forced her to design this escape room, this new elaborate escape room, and each room had some sort of connection to her daughter, which is it was actually kind of a nice reveal. It was an interesting take on it, and it kind of made some of the clues that were in the escape room sequences, they had some extra meaning, which was nice. But in the alternate ending, Amanda is still there. She survives. So Amanda survives that. She survives she kind of survives the first escape room. She doesn't die in the first escape room. She loses, but she doesn't die. She designs the second escape room. She escapes when Zoey and Ben escape, or so we think. But in the alternate ending, she was recaptured by Minas, and now she's in the prison strapped to an electric chair. And the voiceover says, "Welcome to escape room, mother and daughter." Boom, end credits. I don't know, I was trying to think of something that would get Zoey to design it, and I feel like maybe if there was both someone that she knew before, and then maybe the daughter was also in danger. They don't have to actually show her, but if they imply it, mother and daughter, maybe that'll be enough an implication that maybe that would then cause her to design the escape room. But you don't know until the inevitable third movie, which who knows? Escape Room came out in 2019. Tournament of Champions came out in 2021. So 2023 probably a safe assumption. But that was my alternate ending. The ending of the film wasn't bad. I just don't love it when there's this kind of big super reveal at the end that didn't really feel earned. So I thought this would give you kind of an earned ending that kind of fits the theme of the film, and then a stinger that kind of sets up another more sinister ending. So let me know what you think. Let me know what you thought after you see the film, and thank you so much for your time. Thanks for watching. If you liked this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot to make sure all my new content goes straight to you. And make sure to check out Escape Room Tournament of Champions in theaters on July 16th, 2021. Thank you.